actually going live. And like I mentioned last night, I was unable to get through the interview of the last guest. So we're going to be showing a new interview next week. But tonight, it's me. I'm going to actually, I do have a couple of things to talk about and a couple of things to show, but I'm going to also leave much of the podcast for live questions and answers. I'm going to try to keep up with this live chat as best as I can. And I don't know about y'all, but it is cold outside. I am not ready for it to be cold. And I'm praying that summer and fall stick around a little bit longer than it feels like it's going to. So, taking a look. Hi, Pastor Dan. Dano. Hi, Pastor Dano. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Neil. I think I said hi to mostly everybody in the live chat, except for maybe the new arrivals here. And so I'm gonna kind of get started here. And as you, hi Justin. As you can imagine, today was quite the day. Received a lot of phone calls and text messages from last night's episode. Hi, John. Hi, Annie. And I don't have a ton of updates from what went down today, except for it does appear that I'm not sure if Matthew Cutter was let go or if he resigned, but his office was cleaned out today. And of course, I reported about Bishop Amos last night. And so not sure how that's all going to transpire there and how they're going to take care of everything and kind of get all of these holes covered. But if it was anything like when I was there, then it will be a rat race to try to hire some people and then obviously just put other people in those positions that are already there, give them more responsibilities and have higher expectations and give them, a lot more to do, but probably no increase in their paycheck. So going back to the live chat, hi Kimberly, hi Leah. Hi, Marianne. Okay, I think I got the rest of them. So I'm starting out actually with a newspaper article, and after all this is over, I'm going to try to attach the newspaper article in the description so that y'all can go and take a look at it, because I'm only giving a couple of snippets. I think the article is 3 or 4 pages long, but it's from 1993. And it's a very long article on World Harvest Church and Rod Parsley. And much of the article is pretty, I wouldn't say glowing necessarily, but talking about the church and how quickly it's grown and all of the great things that they have done. But it also mentions a couple of things that I wanted to touch on because I did know about the situation with Naomi Endicott, which was a family member of the Parsleys, which you're going to see that, and I'm going to have to read it from my phone, not what you're going to see on the screen because the print's too small. It'll likely be too small for YouTube, so I will definitely try to get the article attached in the podcast description. But it also has another paragraph that I think is very telling, and I think it's important for us to look at it and discuss it because, this is 2024. This article was written in 1993, and you're talking 31 years later, and we're still talking about the same issues that were going on in the 90s, and it doesn't seem like there's any evidence that any of it is going to stop. So I'm going to pull up this article now. And again, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I'm going to read the parts that I think that are the most pertinent. So as you can see, here's the article. It's pretty small, but I'm going to start right above where it says the voice. And it says, there is trouble in Parsley's paradise. A church employee and Parsley relative is suing over what she claims were repeated incidents of sexual harassment by Parsley's father, which is Clyde, Mr. P. She says she sued rather than complained to church officials because they punish boat rockers. The Parsleys deny the claims of harassment and the apparent financial success of the church. Parsley has brought cries from members for a better accounting of how donations are spent, something Parsley adamantly refuses to provide. So we're, again, let's get activated here. So we're talking about sexual harassment in 1993. Naomi did end up settling out of court, I believe, and Mr. P was never let go, obviously, from the ministry. But there are several reports from the 90s, and hopefully some of these guests will continue to come on the podcast from the 90s and the 2000s of sexual improprieties, of sexual harassment. And depending on who you are, you're not going to really have a lot of repercussions, even though the ministry as a whole may have repercussions, but nothing was done to stop the harassment, unfortunately. And again, Mr. P and these other people that had been harassed, had been sexually exploited, had been molested, all of those things, they haven't received any justice, and these people that have perpetrated the crimes kept their jobs. I mean, nothing happened to them. And again, like I said last night, people that work in that ministry, that are affiliated with that ministry, that see all of these things that go on behind the scenes, they are tasked with covering things up for the Parsleys and for the ministry. They then think that these rules or lack thereof also apply to them. And then when they try to behave however they want and act however they want, then they, they are penalized for it, and no one else is. And I don't believe at this point that the Parsleys are taking a hard look in the mirror and saying, maybe we're the problem. We are the problem. We need to do something about this. It's always someone else's fault, and they continue to surround themselves with yes men and yes women that will not speak up and will do whatever they say. So I'm taking a look at the live chat again. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Luann. Hi, Ohio Realtor. Hi, Annie. I see Annie. I think I said hi to her again. Okay. So now we're going to go over to the next page of this article. And again, I'm not reading the entire thing, but just selecting a small piece of it because it's pertinent to what we've been discussing. So here is the second page, and I'm going to read a couple of different areas here, but specifically under Family Feud. So it says, Parsley preaches a strict lesson, making no compromises with sin, and there are hints that his desire for rigid conformity extends beyond the pulpit to the point of creating an atmosphere of intimidation. No critics of Parsley, including other ministers and members of the Columbus evangelical Christian community, would agree to be interviewed for this article. with one longtime evangelical Christian saying he feared retribution from the church. And the former World Harvest employee who has gone to court with sexual harassment charges says she felt that to complain would have been to invite the wrath of church leaders. She says her world began crumbling in late, and we're talking about Naomi Endicott still. She says her world began crumbling in late 1990 when James Parsley began asking her questions she found deeply offensive. She recounted them in her deposition. Did I get any over the weekend? Did I give any over the weekend? And was I going to let him rub that fuzzy today? She says he grabbed her crotch and breast several times and made lewd gestures to her during a Wednesday night religious service and made more obscene comments, including one during a family Thanksgiving dinner at Rod Parsley's home. Endicott says she always told the elder Parsley to stop, but balked at complaining to her sister Ellen or anyone else in authority at the church because she felt that they would not support her. And this is very, very telling to me that we're talking about 1993. We're talking about very lewd and hypersexualized comments and people thinking that they can put their hands on other people and make these comments and get away with it. And unfortunately, he seemingly did get away with it. I mean, he the church ministry had to pay some kind of money, I'm sure, but or she wins the lawsuit or they settle out of court, but there's really no repercussions for Mr. Parsley. And then we hear about the issues with Rod, with Ashton, with many elders in the church, with some of the music leaders from the 90s and the early 2000s. And it runs rampant. Like I said before, from 2019 to 2022, it was still a very hypersexualized environment. There were a lot of people on staff that were being reprimanded and even terminated for doing very obscene things within the church, okay? And there's absolutely no counseling that happens for these people. They are, either written up or let go from their position, or it's covered up and nothing else happens. And it's unfortunate because the head leadership continues to behave however they want. And again, when the staff members start behaving the same way, they are immediately taken, behind closed doors. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're being let go from their positions or that they're not still working around the people that they're harassing. Annie said, and this is Mr. P. So maybe I'm kind of missing some of these. So Lisa says, how many people were molested or raped? Well, we probably don't know about all of them. When we talk about, molesting and being raped, I would say I know of at least 6 people at this time. I'm sure there are more. And I'm saying 6 as in we know for a fact that it did happen, and nothing really happened because of it. It's Pastor Dan said it's so hillbilly to think that this is a family member. I mean, it's disgusting. It's offensive. It's all of the things that we've been saying. Carol said this is some of the root to a lot of the issues that go on there. And it is. And people think that back in the early days things were better, and maybe they were, you guys. I don't know. I wasn't there, but I've talked to plenty of people that on both sides. I've talked to plenty of people that say, back in the 80s and the early 90s that things were different, that Rod was not, so much of a tyrant back then, or at least if he was, it was behind closed doors, and it wasn't, right out there in front of everybody, in the sanctuary. But then I've talked to plenty of other people that say the exact opposite. So I think everybody's perspective is going to be different, because it's what your experience is, and can both of those things be true at the same time? Well, I guess they can. If you had great experiences, then that's what you're going to remember. And it's probably really hard to hear what we've been talking about and believe that they are true. But how can hundreds and maybe thousands of people be wrong? You can't. And we've shown plenty of proof that that is not the case. And I wanted to share one more thing, before we go into the live questions. And I'll just kind of be taking the live questions from the chat. So this was sent to me by Brother Everett, and it was sent to him by someone else. And I thought that not only is the Bible verses very pertinent to what we're discussing, but there's a little bit more that goes on with it too. So this is going to be 1 Timothy 5:24 through 25. And it says, "The sins of some are obvious, reaching the place of judgment ahead of them. The sins of others trail behind them. In the same way, good deeds are obvious, and even those that are not obvious cannot remain hidden forever." And I also have a couple more things here. Paul made it clear in these two verses that the fruit of our actions will catch up with us. The sins of the wicked will catch up with them, and so also the good deeds of the righteous will not be hidden. Jesus said every tree is known by its fruit. Matthew 7:16 through 20, bad trees produce bad fruit and good trees produce good fruit. Galatians 6:7 through 10 puts forth the law of the sower. You reap in your life exactly what you sow. The warning for the wicked is to turn from their sinful ways, while the righteous needs to be patient and consistent in doing good. The harvest will come. And, these should be very encouraging to people that are trying to do the right thing, that are trying to live a Christian, upstanding life, and, putting God first, and really, trying to die to their flesh every day. And that's not to say that we're perfect. We all make mistakes. We're all imperfect, and we will never reach those levels. But I think that it's very important that we are cognizant of that we take evaluation of ourselves on a daily basis, and that how we treat people really does matter. And we should not be saying one thing with our mouths and then our actions say something completely different. And unfortunately, that's all we seem to see from World Harvest Church. So I'm going to go now to the live chat, and kind of, if there's ever been a time that you guys want to ask me any questions, I'm going to try to answer as many of them as I can. God Design says, so they pick and choose who to fire, and it just went away. They pick and choose who to fire and who to keep. It makes it seem like they are taking care of the sexual misconduct, but it's really a cover up to their own lack of accountability. And integrity. And that's exactly right. I'm not saying that that World Harvest or Harvest Prep or Valor has never done anything good, or that they don't do good things. But overall, the heart of the leadership there is not in the right place, and they have no business preaching, teaching, being in a pulpit, trying to lead others, give other people advice, because their house is not in order. They are behaving very demonically at times, if I can be just completely frank, and there's no one there to call them to the carpet. No one can stand up to them and say, you can't do this. This is wrong. This is not how you're supposed to be behaving. No one can do that. And they ensure that the people around them will never even think that they can do that. And the one person that Rod should have some accountability to, well, there should be two people. He's got accountability to God, of course, but to his wife and his family. And he says that Elder Canfield has been his pastor for all of these years, and Elder Canfield can, I mean, he obviously has not been able to stop all of this behavior, and Rod keeps it that way. Rod keeps the people around him that will continue to perpetuate this behavior, so that he can live this lifestyle that in his family as well, that seemingly the rules do not apply to them. So let's see. Cameron says, why is all of this stuff going down in the church? It's I think you say unforgivable. Well, yeah, I think a lot of this stuff, I think forgiveness is a wonderful thing, but again, we have to admit when we are wrong, and the best apology is change behavior. And Rod himself continues to, and Ashton too, for that matter, they get up on the stage, they get up on the platform, they get in the pulpit, and it's everyone else's fault. Me and Everett and Marianne and all these other people are evil, and they need to fight against us, and that sort of thing. And the fact of the matter is that a long time ago, this stuff should have been exposed. It wasn't for whatever reason, and now it's being exposed. And like I've said from the very beginning, I would have liked nothing more for it not to be me. But I do believe that God orchestrated everything the way that he did, and made sure that this was all going to play out the way that he saw fit, and we're going to continue to move in that direction, because I believe that that is also the fact. So let's see here. All right, guys, let's see. Where's some questions here? Oh, I didn't want to do that. Let's see. Come on, I know y'all got some questions for me. Let's see. All right. Well, I'm gonna wait for you guys to shoot me some questions. I don't really see too many in here right now. Rhea said people didn't have anyone brave enough to stand up. Thank you, social media. All right, Kimberly, why is Joni not in church? Well, I think that she has been kind of making more of appearance here and there here lately. I don't know exactly if that's because so many people are asking, where she has been, or if she just has decided to be more present in the church services. like I said before, have always tried to have some respect and compassion for that area because I do know several things. And let's just say, for the sake of still trying to be respectful, because I do have some compassion for her situation, let's just say that the way that you hear and see people being treated at World Harvest Church is exactly how she's treated at home, not only by Rod, but also by Ashton. And they are very mean, they're very nasty, and and the things that are said to her and about her are just mind-blowing. And there's some other issues as well, but I know for a period of time that Rod and Ashton didn't want her there because she was embarrassing to them. And I also believe that she just kind of got sick of, seeing the fakeness, that you're one person, behind closed doors, and then you're another person when you're in front of everybody. And if, at times you can show all of this love and compassion, then why can't you do that at home as well? So I know I didn't completely answer that question, but I do try to be respectful in that manner, at least to her, because I think that she deserves some of that. Stephen King says, overall, is Joni complicit or a victim? I would say both. I would say that she's definitely been a victim of her circumstances, but I also believe that she's been complicit at times as well, because she knows that there are issues. She knows what is being experienced, but she herself, she cannot stand up to Rod and Ashton either. And so, I think it's kind of a catch-22. You just get along to get along, and that means keeping your mouth shut. Let's see. Hopefully I'm not skipping over too much. Ryan says, are guest speakers treated better than church members? Oh, absolutely. I don't know if you saw the episodes, Ryan, where I showed the lavish gifts that are given to the guests, and the Parsleys behave completely different when a special guest is around, typically. And so I don't think all the guests, I think the people that are really close are aware. But I think some of the guests that just come in sporadic, or they're musicians, I think that they see a different version of how people are really treated. So they may not be completely aware. And again, they're getting very lavish gifts, Louis Vuittons and Hermes and Lord have Chanel. I mean, concert tickets, I mean, it just, the list goes on. And then of course they're usually receiving a check as well. So definitely guests are treated better. M Cause said, did you ever experience anything uncomfortable when you worked there? Well, I would say yes, and probably one of the most uncomfortable situations that I was in was maybe 4 to 6 months after I started there. And I was in the executive conference room that's back near Rod's quarters, and it's the large conference room. There's animal heads all over the room, and it's also that area where you can get in but you can't get out, kind of deal. So we were having a meeting back there with the executive team, and then all of the directors in the organization. And during that meeting, after Rod and Ashton came in and we stood up, of course, and welcomed them into the room, Somehow Rod got on the topic of me, being in bodybuilding, and he wanted me to flex my muscles for everyone, like a double bicep pose in front of everyone. And I kind of laughed it off and was like, no, that's okay. And he just kept forcing the issue, like, come on, Robin, come on, just do it, just do it. And so I did end up doing it. And it wasn't, I didn't feel harassed or anything, but it was like, we're in a professional, business meeting. I thought that it was inappropriate and it was uncomfortable, because these are the people that I work with. I'm very proud of the fact that, I was able to, go pro in the bodybuilding world, but I I wasn't, you know, throwing it around at work, especially. And it's just a much different situation when you're at work and you're being very professional, and somebody, the leader of the organization is, um, enticing you over and over again to get up and do like a double bicep pose. Anyways, I that was an uncomfortable situation for me. But the other uncomfortable situations, there were several, but it had to do with people being treated very poorly, or me being asked to reprimand people that I knew were doing this inappropriate behavior with Ashton or other members of leadership. And even at one point asking me to terminate somebody for it was very uncomfortable. And I told them, and I did terminate the person, and told her I was very sorry that it was going in this direction. And I did tell them after that it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. They knew it was wrong, and that they better never put me in that situation again. And there was one, there are so many situations, you guys, when you talk about being uncomfortable, you can look at that on, so many different levels. But when you are sitting in the room with people that have given their blood, sweat, and tears to this place, they've sacrificed, they've sacrificed their families, they've sacrificed their time, they've sacrificed their health, they've sacrificed financially, every way that you can imagine sacrificing, and then are being yelled and screamed at and berated and belittled, and then want me, to go in at like the final nail in the coffin and say, you're being let go. And if you want to sign this non-disclosure agreement, then we're going to give you this amount of money to sign it. But if you don't want to sign it, then you get nothing. And you're just sent on your way. And that's a terrible place, because these people are good people. They were great at their jobs. They literally have sacrificed everything, like I said. And because, they can't work, 200 hours a week, they can only work 90 to 100 hours a week. The Parsleys just are relentless. And if they will cut their nose off to spite their face, unfortunately. And if they would put a little bit of that energy into creating a better environment, to do the right thing, to actually treat people respectfully and the way that they should be treated, especially in a Christian organization, and not, constantly, nothing is ever good enough. And they will curse you in private and then try to bless you in public, and then bring you right back, to the curse. And it's just, it's like trauma bond. I that's probably the best way that that I can explain it. So let's see. More questions. I'm trying not to skip over. Jimmy J says, has the attendance gone down? Because sometimes those are the wake up calls for pastors. Oh, the attendance is way down, but it's been, kind of depleting over the years. So you talk about, being a packed house, like standing room only in the 90s and early 2000s, to now it's, I don't know, five to seven, 800 people on a Sunday, and maybe a couple hundred on Wednesday nights. And that includes the Valor kids. So if the Valor kids were not there, then you're probably talking, about 100 less in the services. Jen said, Matthew said, at what point do you think regulators and other officials will get involved to investigate some of the claims that have been made? I don't know. I think that we just have to keep pushing ahead and doing what we can do and bringing this to the forefront, and God's timing is always perfect. I try to kind of keep my opinion out of that because like I said before, patience is a virtue and a fruit of the spirit that I'm getting better at, but it's not necessarily one of my strongest suits. And so I will find myself, trying to push things along or putting my 2 cents in when God's saying, "Hey, I got this. You just need to chill. You just need to be patient." And so I'm really trying to do that. And there's just so many people that have had negative experiences there, and so many that I know that haven't even reached out and maybe never will. And so I don't know when it's going to happen, but we're praying that it happens when God wants it to happen. Jen said, will you be revisiting former stories and releasing names, or do you feel that wisdom compassion would dictate continued covering? Well, the whole season 2 has been the guests that I'm interviewing. And so I don't know if you're asking, are we going to go back and talk to some of those people? We are going to talk to several people again because we didn't get, to some things, especially like with Carol and some of the other guests that have been there for a really long time. And Wendy said Joni is not complicit. That's all I will say publicly. And see, that's the thing, you guys. Everybody's perspective is different. And to me, to be complicit is that that things are going on and you do not do anything about them. If we're viewing it from that definition only, then I would say absolutely, she's complicit. Several other people are complicit. But if you then look at it from the viewpoint that that she's also enduring all of these things at home that people are enduring in the workplace, then maybe it would be seen from a different lens because she's also in a toxic environment and maybe trying to just keep her head above water. And so it really depends on how you look at it. There's been other people, and I'll use Carol for example. Carol has said that she absolutely she loved Joni, but that she believed that she was complicit. So again, it really just depends on your viewpoint, your perspective, how you're defining things, and if you're really considering all of the factors, or if you're only considering your own experience. Neil said, do you think Ashton is being groomed to take over, or does Rod think a woman can't lead a church? I don't know. I mean, I always heard that Ashton didn't even want the ministry. I don't know. I don't believe a lot of people would continue going there if she was the person to take over. But he has also said to several, male pastors, they're his spiritual sons, and at some point, he wants them to take over the ministry. That's been said to several people. I don't know the answer to that. I guess, at some point we wait and see. Beth said, why do you think Ashton has gone quiet on social media? In the past, she has constantly posted selfies, especially before service, in all her outfits, even giving credit to the hair and makeup person. I think that everything that's coming out is probably the reason that she's kind of been quiet. Again, but that's my opinion. I don't know that for sure. Retro Review said, in the halls and offices, plenty of pics and quotes from Mr. P, very little to nothing pertaining to the Lord. 2 Timothy 3 says, in the last days, people will be lovers of themselves. Yeah. CZCS 4565 says, have any of the victims filed criminal complaints concerning alleged sexual assaults? Yes. Hold on one second. I believe the statute of limitations on some of those have run out, but yes, there have been claims made. Leah said, I know many have asked about contacting the state attorney general regarding crimes being committed by the Parsleys. Have you heard from anyone who has reported them? Yes, I have. Beth said Joni is a victim. Gloria said, how does Rod treat his son, Austin, since he's autistic? I don't know the answer to that. I never was around Rod and Austin together. I actually was really never around Austin. There was a time that I was doing a bodybuilding competition, and Sinead, who is Austin's girlfriend, her and I were pretty friendly in the office, and I helped her, with some diet and workout plans and that sort of thing. And her and Austin came to my show, but other than that, I didn't really have a lot of interaction. Let's see. Kenny D said, do you think that Rod is a 33rd degree Freemason? Well, it does appear that Freemasonry is definitely a thing, with all of the Masonic symbols, the demonic symbols, the swords, that sort of thing. But I don't know, how far up in the ranks, and you have to think that there's plenty of politicians, government officials, this secret society, we probably would never completely know, but I think there is proven facts that many people that are affiliated with Rod are in Freemasonry, and but I don't know. I mean, I guess that's I don't know that he's a 33rd degree, but there's plenty symbolism of Freemasonry and demonic symbols within the organization that I didn't even know were there when I was there. Everett, just how creepy is the relationship between Rod and Ashton? Well, it seems to be pretty creepy. At some point, I'm going to be doing an episode that is going to go into that. But it's, in my experience with being around the two of them, I'm going to talk about that first. I always thought it was strange because I felt like Rod was treating Ashton as if she were his wife and not his daughter. And of course, Joni was never around. I saw her twice in almost 4 years. So the relationship was just very strange. And again, I'm going to do a full episode on this, but let's just say that neither one of them are uncomfortable walking around completely nude, and that includes in the green rooms at the church. And that includes not only in front of each other, but in front of other staff members that will be on to or friends and staff members that will talk about what they saw and what they experienced. But I didn't ever see that personally, but I know plenty of people that have, unfortunately. And that's just a very strange position um, um, to be in. Carol said, in regards to Joni, you can be a victim and also be complicit. And she can also exhibit similar behaviors that Rod and Ashton do. And again, it's about everybody's experiences. Carol was very good friends with Ashton and spent a lot of time at their home, and so her experience is going to be different than somebody that may only have interacted with her at the church, or more of a friendship basis, but where it was on her terms and not necessarily in her home. Let's see. Psalm 37:23, Robin, are you aware of anyone who has accused Rod himself of any kind of sexual abuse? No, I am not. Everything that I'm aware of was abuse by other people, and that he was aware of it, and it, depending on your position and how valuable you are to them, then that will depend on whether you're let go or not. Let's see. H. Barry, do you think PRP is racist? You stated he had a problem with Ashton dating a black man. I have heard him say things that make me wonder. Yes, I think that he definitely is racist. Now, but again, I don't think that he thinks that he is, if that makes sense. So, people will base things on their own experiences, and implicit bias is a real thing. You guys know I have background in HR. I had to do, seminars on implicit bias and tolerance and accountability and all of these things. Now, in a Christian organization, you're not going to have to deal with as many of these things, or you shouldn't have to, because we all have to sign a lifestyle statement when we're hired by World Harvest Church or Harvest Prep or Valor. And, it talks about, not having same-sex relationships, and not having abortions, and, the things that you would expect to see. And we all sign those. And nobody really there were very few people. I think maybe I interviewed 5 or 6 people in almost 4 years that had a problem with signing that lifestyle statement, and they just wouldn't. But drinking and drugs and having affairs, those sorts of things. But I do know that that I think that Rod's issue, especially with black people or African Americans, is he doesn't want his daughter to be in a relationship and or married to someone that is not white. And I know that other people have had experiences with things being said. We know, that Ashton makes comments like, it smells like black people and unpaid bills in here. I mean, she admitted to that on the audio tape. It's just, it's sick. And so, but I believe they were kind of raised this way. I believe that Rod was raised that way, to believe that he was superior, and not that he doesn't love black people, but he doesn't want them involved in relationships with his daughter. And there were several other people that have been there, especially white women with black men. and it's talked about, and it might not be talked about to your face, but it's talked about. But even I know Mrs. P had some conversations with people when she was still living, and telling white women that were engaged or dating black men that she wanted to pray for them and pray the demons out of them because they're attracted to black men. So if that's racist, then yes, I think that that it's definitely that definitely he is. But again, I think if you asked him, he would say no. And then, of course, he's very insensitive. Also, I mean, you talk about the George Floyd stuff and all of that, and those tensions. A lot of people have a hard time believing that he or his family are racist, because you look at the congregation, you look at the school, the school at least is predominantly black or African American. I think the congregation is probably sort of split, but back in the days, there was plenty of black people there, but very insensitive, I would say. But that also goes back to me is the fact that they don't think that rules apply to them. Okay. So they think that they can act and behave however they want, and that people are going to keep their mouth shut, or nobody's going to say anything or call them out. And then when it starts happening, then they're backtracking like, oh, I didn't mean that. Oh, I see myself, more black than white, or whatever they say. And they can't even be honest with the fact that they have these thoughts, whether they're intentional or unintentional, that they are superior. But I believe they also believe they're superior to everyone, regardless of your skin color. But yes, I think that they're racist. Ethan, does Rod have any children out of wedlock? Not that I can prove yet. Kimberly, does Rod still take a gun to staff meetings and fire it if someone disagrees with him? Well, I don't think that he's done that again, but I know that there are firearms throughout the organization, and that I wouldn't put it past him. Now, I think that people are kind of towing the line a little bit more than they used to be, because now there's spotlights on what's going on there. But the reason for that is because it needs to change. If they want to continue operating as a ministry, then they should actually be one. And no one leaves that place better, especially if you work there. And you leave knowing what not to do, and most people leave needing to recover from that place, and need a lot of healing and counseling and deprogramming from World Harvest and how they're treated. Does Ryan says, does Rod know about Ashton shacking up with her boyfriend? I would say that he does. I mean, he okayed, Amos and Brian Ferris and Richard Burkholder and who else, I don't know if other people are involved, but I know those people. He approved them to be involved in getting, this truck back, getting, putting it up for sale, and tasked them with doing that. So yes, he would have had to have known. But also, Carol talked about there being cameras in Ashton's house, and I don't know if they were in that condo apartment up in Dublin that she was living with this guy in, but he knows everything. I mean, I don't think that I can stress that enough, you guys. There are cameras with video and audio throughout the organization. No decisions are made with him without him knowing. And he's very controlling over his family as well. And so, yeah, I believe that he knows all of it. And again, they just try to keep it under wraps. Let's see. Paul said, has there been any word out of the state attorney general's office? No. I know several reports have been made, but nothing, it doesn't look like anything has happened yet. Jennifer said, who is Real Talk Kim? I've seen some of her stuff and cannot understand why Ashton was sent to her for spiritual guidance. Kim, has Kim Jones, she's been around for a while, and I think that her and Ashton are probably a lot alike, and so I don't know that she's getting a lot of biblical encouragement and chastising at times, but it's more they commiserate together. Yeah, is Neil said his attendance really down that much? Yes. Rosalind has a lot to say. Rosalind Harrison, since you have so many negative things to say about the ministry, why don't you interview the hundreds that have a positive experience? Rosalind, there aren't hundreds. You are one of very few that have spoken up for the ministry, and I'm very happy for you that you have had a great experience there. But this podcast is like I said before, as nicely as possible, this podcast is probably not for you. And it's not that I don't want to have conversations with people that have had very positive experiences there. But this podcast was started to expose World Harvest Church, especially from my viewpoint as the HR director, and talk about all of the issues that were going on there and continue to go on there and have been going on there. And I would encourage you, Rosalind, to start your own podcast and to talk about how wonderful. And if there are, in fact, hundreds of people that have had great experiences there, then you probably already have a long list of people that you can have on your podcast to talk about how great World Harvest Church is and how great Rod Parsley is. So again, thank you for tuning in, but I'm not sure why you continue to tune in when you don't like what I have to say, and I'm not going to stop saying it. So, I guess we can kind of end it with that. Let's see. Stephanie said, do you think it's weird he associates with TD Jakes and the P. Diddy connector? Yeah, I think it's a little weird, especially after all of the P. Diddy stuff started coming out, and Rod still talks about TD Jakes, even as early as Dominion Camp meeting, about being affiliated with him, and talking about him very gleamingly. And I will say I was shocked by the TD Jakes stuff. I have several of his books, and when I was going through a particularly hard time in my life, his books did some wonders for me, as far as just giving me a new perspective that in the midst of where I was in my life and in personal life, that it was really hard for me to have a different perspective from just what I was living in at that point in time. But now that it's all come out, I was actually just more shocked at the fact that he would continue to still mention his name after all of this stuff. But I don't know, none of us are going to really know about a lot of this until it starts coming out. So it would be speculation. Rhea said, what would you say to pastors like Ramirez who keep implying those of us speaking up are demon possessed and part of the great falling away? It's super annoying. Yeah, it's annoying, but at the end of the day, haters are going to hate. You're going to have it when you're speaking out. your people are going to stand up against that. And I wouldn't spend a ton of energy on fighting back against them. The way that you fight back is to continue to talk about your experiences, to tell the truth, and to shine light on what has been hidden and been in the darkness for so long, because that's what's helping other people. That's what's giving people courage. That is what's letting people know that this didn't just happen to you, that it happened to a lot of people, that it wasn't your fault, that you know, are not being punished by God, and that people are operating in a very evil manner. And I know they don't like what I'm saying. They don't like what a lot of us are saying, and that's okay. You're going to have that. But I wouldn't spend a ton of energy on just fighting back at them. I would spend the energy on saying, I'm going to do this in a productive way. I'm going to do it in a way that is not putting me in a place where I'm kind of stooping to their level. And I know with you, Ria, they have attacked you personally and have done it in the public, but your day's coming, and you're going to be able to tell your experience and the actual truth of the situation. And a lot of other people are going to get that opportunity as well. Um, let's, uh, um, all right, I'm still scrolling through. Uh, uh, Ethan said, why are World Harvest Church's 990 nonprofit reports sealed? Well, I think because of their 501c3, that they don't have to report the 990s, or if they do, then they don't have to be public record. Now Valor, some their 990s are more public, and I've been looking into those because those numbers don't appear to be right based on what I know. But again, um, it's like me and a couple other people that are investigating, that are talking to people, that are going through a litany of leads and paperwork, and it's a lot of, I mean, it's very, very time consuming, and then you still have to conduct interviews and spend time with your family and try to keep up with your own personal health and really refilling your cup. And so it's I just don't know the answer to that, except for the fact that because of their nonprofit status, that either they don't have to report it or it doesn't have to be public record. But I would like to see it. Um, uh, um, Gilbert said, "Hello, Sister Robin. Have heard any feedback of how the podcast has directly affected Rod Parsley in the church, and have they tried to reach out to you directly?" Other than after that very first episode, The Smoking Gun, season 1, episode 1, I did receive the cease and desist from the very attorneys that I used to work with when I worked there. I told them I was not ceasing or desisting, and you know, that was back in March, and we're now in mid-October. That was the only time I heard from anybody from there, and it really wasn't even from there. It was from the attorneys, and I don't really know how it's affected them completely, to be honest. I'm I'm not so concerned with that as I am about making sure that the truth comes out and then people can talk about their experiences, but it's still more about helping people. Now, yes, now that I have found out that real crimes were being committed, that children were being hurt, yes, I'm hyper vigilant in making sure that accountability and justice is served in that matter. But as far as it directly affecting, I think that I don't know that it has completely. I don't know that people have stopped going to church there. I know that some CHN pastors have chose to leave the City Harvest Network, but other than that, that would be the only thing that I know of. And the fact that people are getting more courage and saying, okay, this is wrong. I don't have to take this, and I'm going to get out of here while I can. But other than that, I don't know that it has really affected them completely. Jen Newell said, Julie Roy's reached out to me a long time ago. I've kept in contact with them, but they're telling me that right now they don't have any investigators that can do a story on this. And so again, it's not in God's will at this point for that to happen. Let's see. Annie said, how has this information podcast and what you've learned affected you? Well, it's definitely changed me and affected me in several different ways, but I also think that it depends on what day you ask me, and also what the topic is. Like I said before, when it comes to the situations with kids and the things that I have found out, it's very triggering for me because I had a very rough upbringing, and a lot of these things that have happened to people did happen to me, and people around knew about it and did not take the time to try to figure out what was going on or report it or even make an anonymous call. And so I first and foremost feel, that I'm the voice for a lot of these people, and I'm trying to get as much done in that light. But there's so many people that have been hurt by this place, and when you hear this day in and day out, it's almost like I'm working there again, but maybe worse because it's so much stuff, you guys. I mean, you just couldn't imagine, and it does take a toll. And so how I've tried to really work through some of that is that I really try to take the weekends off completely to spend it with my family. So I'm not really, doing interviews. I'm not editing things. I'm not talking to people and getting their stories or investigating things on the weekends, but just really trying to refill my own cup when I can, and also definitely not put a wall up, but try to compartmentalize some of the things so that I can be as effective as I can be. But I will also say that because of my life and because of all of the things that the Lord saved me from, that it gives me a perspective and an understanding of a lot of people and their experiences, and I know that He orchestrated all of that because I was supposed to do this. I was supposed to help people, and I could never understand, even after a long process of healing. I could never understand, some of it, like, well, maybe I'll never know, why I went through that or why that happened. But now I know. It's a compassion and an empathy and an understanding for a lot of people, that even though I may have not been there with them, I may have not gone through exactly what they went through, that I do understand very deeply, and I unfortunately even understand where the Parsleys are coming from. Not that I was ever rich or famous or any of that stuff, but I was definitely very narcissistic. I thought that the rules didn't apply to me. I treated people in my younger days not very good, and did struggle with drugs and alcohol, like we know Ashton has. And it, my life changed, and the Lord is the only person that can take credit for that. But I did do the hard work behind it. I think that the Lord can just miraculously transform people and and what they're going through. But I also believe that oftentimes there are so many lessons in that healing process, and we have to go through those so that we can be all that God created us to be. And that's the part where people give in a lot of times because it's painful, and you experienced it once, you certainly don't want to experience it again. But healing is a process, and there's never a time frame on it. But I encourage everyone, regardless of where you are, how old you are, all of that stuff. I encourage you to go through that healing process, because the peace and the love and forgiveness and understanding and all of those things that you receive is, I mean, I can't imagine my life being the way that it used to be, and I would never want to go back there, but I also wouldn't change it because it has made me the person that I am today. So that was a long answer. Uh, let's see. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to scroll through all of these. Some of these are questions, some of them are not questions. Um, mm, um, Sorry for the time going by that I'm just looking through these. Um, Retro reviews. He said, if Rod and WHC doesn't repent and do a 180, is this sustainable, or eventually will the ship sink? How do you see it playing out if they don't change? Well, I wish that they would. I mean, that was, really when I started, and I didn't know about all of these kids that had been hurt. I had a lot more compassion at that point in time, and I do pray that the Lord keeps my heart right throughout this process. And I do have to check myself sometimes, because I can feel myself going into a place that isn't good. But I don't know the answer to that. I would like to believe that, the Lord gives you chances, to look in the mirror, and you need to change, and you need to really repent and get some deliverance from this stuff, and take yourself off this pedestal that you have created. But if you continue to refuse to do those things, then you are turning your back on God. And, do you not hear his voice anymore? Does he not speak to you anymore? Does he not convict your spirit? I think that's, a real scary place to be. But I, I know Rod and his family, they got a lot of properties, they got a lot of money. I think that they would be okay regardless. But this is his so-called legacy, and you would think that he would want to leave on a higher note than what the debacle that it's become, or maybe has always been, and now it's just a light is being shined on it. So I don't know. I don't think that it is sustainable, but when people are so egotistical and prideful, again, they'll cut their nose off to spite their face. So, would Rod continue to keep that place open just for the fact to say that it is? He might, that's the best answer I can give. Question, or best answer I can give you. Um, Jennifer said, "Why do people dress him and or run his bath water?" Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, it's weird, it's weird. But I think that's just that elitism mindset, that mentality that you work for me, you are my servant, you are going to be at my beck and call and do whatever I tell you to do, regardless of what that is. And so I think that it's that mentality. Um, uh, mm, Rhea said, "What happened to Lisa and Elder G? We were there that year, but never found out why they left." Well, um, and hey, who is Mr. Who? We all want to know who Mr. Who is. I've asked a couple people, and it's not them. So Rhea, the it's sort of a long story, and they did leave there on very bad terms, and I think that I have mentioned that. Now they claim that they've gone through a forgiveness and restoration period, and so they're back, and that's the reason. I don't buy that. I believe that there's either blackmail or something going on. I believe it's more than money, but that situation, to just give you a very short, or the shortest answer I can give you, there were two things that kind of led up to them leaving, and then they did tell who knows how many people to not take jobs there, to never go back there. Don't, very discouraging to anybody that was talking about working there, going there, anything like that, because of their experience. And then even up until about 3 or 4 months before Dominion Camp meeting, which is when you saw their return. So there are the two main situations I'm going to tell you. Now, I know that there were a lot of things that led up to this, but these are the two things that happened leading up to it. So again, back to episode 1, season 1, the smoking gun. That happened in January of 2019. So right before I started working there. Germaine, Elder G and Lisa were to be in that meeting. Now, Lisa called off work that day because my understanding is she just couldn't take any more of Rod ranting and raving, and she, was just physically ill to go in there. She was supposed to be in that meeting, and when that gun was shot off, a piece of the shrapnel fell into the chair that she would have been sitting in. That's issue number 1. After that, so I don't know the exact time frame, but Austin worked downtown, and he did also when I worked there. He worked downtown, and there was always a staff member that had to leave work and go pick him up from work. Now, a lot of times it was his girlfriend Sinead, but it was different people when I worked there. So Elder G was the one that was set to pick him up on a certain day. And I don't know if he got stuck at the church. I don't know if the Parsleys were running him ragged. I don't know what happened, but he was late picking him up. And consequently, Austin kind of wandered off, and he ended up getting hit by a bus. And this was documented, not necessarily the full situation, but it was documented. He was in the hospital. There were some, he was hurt. And so G and Lisa then became the focal point of Rod because he blamed them for this happening, and he was just completely relentless on not ever letting them live this situation down, even though they were super apologetic that it happened. Of course, they didn't mean for anything to happen. And so February 10th, I started on February 11th, and their keys were in my office the day that I started. On that Sunday before, they had a rough service. I don't know if it was because Rod thought it was rough or it really was rough, but there were several people that were in a meeting after the service, and Rod was just going in on Elder G and on Lisa, and they were, still trying to tell them, like, how long are we going to have to go through this? And I'm giving you guys kind of the cliff notes here, okay? How many times do we have to apologize for this? How many times, we're sorry, we did not mean it to happen, but you can't keep attacking us. And Rod said to them, well, maybe I'll go and hit your kids with my car, and we'll see how you feel about that. Now, my understanding is that Lisa got up and left after that happened, and then Rod asked Elder G if he was going to be a P word and follow his wife. And then they didn't work there anymore. They unenrolled their kids from school. They seemingly left. I had to contact them several times to see if they would sign a non-disclosure agreement. They would not contact me back. I never spoke to them during that situation. These accounts are from people that were in those rooms and lived through all of this with them. So I am sure that there were several other instances that happened before that, but that was like the culminating event, I believe, that finally pushed them out the door. Let's see, guys. I'm still um, looking through here these questions. Mm, uh, Erica said, have you ever had a conversation with any of the Parsleys outside of work meetings? Yeah, I have. There was a time that Rod asked me several times to invite Ashton to come work out with me. And he thought that, it would be a good opportunity for her. And so her and I talked, and I just told her, show up. This is my gym. This is where I go. And she did show up a couple of times, and it was fairly uneventful. The Her personality style is different than mine. She seems to be, a little bit more reserved, or at least she was when I was around. So more reserved and standoffish, I would say. But again, it's sort of weird. I mean, she didn't really know me all of that well, and maybe she wouldn't have really picked me to be someone that she worked out with. But that was the experience. Not really anything major to report from that viewpoint. But there were several women at World Harvest that would come and work out with me, and she came 3 times and never saw her again, and that was my interaction with her outside of work. Hmm. Let's see. let's see here. Mm, Micah Davis. Um, this is a comment. Okay, I apologize. I'm just discouraged at how dirt on people goes viral when good, solid Christian content sits dormant. Um, well, Micah, I want to say this. I kind of agree with you from the stance that there's a lot of good Christian content out there that doesn't get a lot of views. Now, I've always tried to include scriptures in what I'm doing, and maybe not every single episode, but most episodes I do that. And but it is discouraging. But like I said before, people, I wouldn't have anything to report on if this stuff was not happening. And that's discouraging. It's discouraging, in my opinion, that World Harvest Church has been open for all of these decades, and all of these things have continued to happen year after year after year, and nothing is being done about it. And then when somebody finally comes out and says, okay, we're going to talk about this stuff, I've got receipts, I'm going to tell you my experiences, then, there is a lot of support for me and some of these other people that are reporting on this stuff now. But people are also discouraging to what I'm doing, as if I am doing something wrong as well. And I just simply don't believe that. I believe that, again, God orchestrated all of this. And yes, is it discouraging, especially if you've been attached to that ministry or other ministries, and you that behave that way, and you think that where you've given your money and you've spent your time and volunteered and your kids have gone there, you find out that it's quite frankly the exact opposite of what you've had. That's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. But there are so many people that are in that space, and that's one of the reasons for the podcast, is to help people understand they are not the only ones. And again, God isn't punishing them because they didn't get invited into the inner circle, or they didn't get a job there, or they didn't get whatever it is, that God may have actually been protecting you or them from being in that position. But we have to talk, we have to expose, we have to be courageous, and we can't continue to sit back and let this stuff happen and keep our mouths shut, because then we're complicit as well. And I don't personally, the people that I am interacting with, I do not believe that people are like, yeah, we've got some dirt on World Harvest. Like, I don't believe anybody is doing that. But when we get information, we do investigate it. We make sure that we can prove it some way, whether that is we have the backup to prove it. We have several people that were there that can speak to it. It's happened to me, whatever the case is. We're not just letting people say anything, and we're not just reporting anything just for the sake of reporting it. We're making sure that it's factual and there's backup behind it. Kenneth May said, to be honest, these revelations have devastated me. I had no idea. And that's the thing. It is devastating to a lot of people. And I will also say, if you had real experiences with God in that place, and you had good experiences there, I think that's great. I think that God can meet us anywhere that we are. And that's not to diminish the fact that you had that experience there whatsoever. But what ends up happening is that there is such a worship of Rod Parsley and his family at that church. And I know that it happens at other churches too, that we start losing God and it's Rod. And then the time that we should be spending in our Bibles, in prayer, fellowshipping with other people, and actually being spiritually fed, that just isn't happening. And so that's one of the main issues that I have with that. But it is devastating. But again, I'm saying that to say, um, don't let this podcast or any other podcast diminish a real experience, or experiences that you've had, regardless of where they've happened, because again, God can meet us anywhere. But it is to say that people are being hurt. There are a lot of things happening, even crimes, and somebody's got to expose it. And believe you me, I didn't want it to be me. Let's see. I'm gonna probably finish up soon, you guys. It's 8:30, so we've been going hour and a half. Um, Everett, Ohio for Freedom. Since all of this began, has Mr. Parsley ever once publicly taken any responsibility or made any public apology? Absolutely not. We are, any of us that have been following this, we know that that is not the case. Um, um, Heartbreaking, gut wrenching. Let's see. Um, all right, I'm just gonna do one more quick look through because there's just so much here, you guys. I'm sorry if um I didn't get to all of your questions. I was really trying to get to a lot of them here. Um, um, Caitlin Brown said, when I was considering going back to work there, Elder G is one of the main people who told me not to do it. I mean, it is. And again, like I said, they said that there's been a forgiveness and restoration that happened. And if that's the case, I think that's wonderful. But we all know that Rod and his family have not changed. So why would you put yourself and your wife back in the lion's den? Because I don't believe it's just for money. That's obviously my personal feeling. Erica said, "Did you ever lose sleep or feel sick knowing you had to work at WHC the next day?" Absolutely. I There were times that I was like paralyzed in my car. I would show up to work early because I would have to sit in my car and listen to worship music, read scriptures to get myself ready to get in there. But I also will say that there were so many people that were counting on me to show up um, and be, their advocate there. That's actually what kept me going and probably kept me there for as long as I was for the people. It wasn't because I thought the job was completely great. I mean, I was a one person operation for almost 300 people. And typically in human resources, you will have one person in the HR department per 100 people. Now, I did end up getting a work study student, and she was wonderful. And her and I worked together for over a year, maybe 2 years, but we worked together, and it was great having her. But again, still not enough people for the amount of staff members that work there. But yes, it was a lot of losing sleep, a lot of being sick, sometimes even just terrified to go into the building because it was very oppressive. Um, let's see. Um, Boston Jones, will you ever host a prayer session for PRP and the church? Um, I think that we can all pray for them. I pray for them in the church every day. And I think that if we did host a prayer session, it wouldn't just be for Rod and the church, but it would also be for the countless victims of that place. And um, that's my answer to that. Let's see here. Okay, I think I'm at the end. Okay. And Stephanie said Ashton's close friends know the most. So, you guys, thank you for tuning in. This was a little bit longer than I actually thought that it would be. I appreciate all of you and your questions. And um, I just want to say again, thank you, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking and subscribing, and thank you for your patience with me as I kind of navigate doing these lives. This one and last night have gone a lot smoother. So, thank you so much for just the support and all of the prayers, you guys. And I will see you next week with a new interview and not a live. And hopefully, we don't have any more breaking news in the next week or so. Thanks, guys.